Fantasy sports lovers use so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
Welcome to The Dash, where we bring you up to speed on everything sports.
Touchdown! We've been waiting for it to break the big one, but he saved it for the right time.
Swing and a miss, ball game. He stutter steps, he launches a three. Hey! Nailed it!
And now your hosts, Nick Hershey, Jerry Myers, and Tom right here on WINT Integrity, the new 101.5 FM, AM, and WINTradio.com.
Indeed, the radio voice man is right. Live on Integrity Radio 101.5, the new 101.5 FM, 1330 AM, WINTradio.com. The Dash is off and sprinting yet again, episode 2. J-Rocc, that's me, Jerry Myers, in the house with you alongside Nick Hershey, Thomas Pope, running the board, spinning the dials back there. Get you guys rocking and rolling on a Tuesday, fellas. How are we feeling this afternoon?
I'm feeling great, J-Rocc, and it's so good to be back in here again. Episode 2, Attack of the... What are we going to call this episode now? We can't go the Star Wars route. Thomas, what we should call...
I have no idea, but I'm doing fine. Didn't get a chance to see my guy AJ. I'm a little bit mad, man, but I'm good, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, all of us are, indeed. And you guys are with us as well, whether you're in your cars, wherever you're at, tuning in, Dash. We're reason to even count these episodes because this is just number 2 of many more to come here on WINT. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We have got a ton of things we're going to get into, actually. Nick's got a heck of a topic. Yesterday, we were talking a little bit about some of the things we're going to do. One of the things we talked about, being live, being local, talking about the local football as we're just 4 away to kickoff of high school football season right here on WINT with the game of the week, which I'm sure we'll talk about ad nauseum over the next few weeks. But in an article in the News Herald about some great football seasons, we're going to talk about that. We've got something exciting that I want to talk about real quick. Yesterday, we were teasing a potential first prize, a first kind of a big thing that we're going to do here. We've got that and so much more. Guys, we want you to be a part of it, whether it's on the phones, whether it's on the social media. It's a great way to do all of that and enter into something really cool. Yesterday, we were talking about fantasy football. As we talk about football, obviously high school sports big here, but fantasy football is such a big thing around the country. And the previous radio shows that I've done, the last 5 seasons now, we've had a relationship with our good friends, as you just heard, Fantasy Jocks. And once again, they are going to come through and provide an incredible prize. I'm going to transfer the Fantasy Football League here. We're going to start Dash Fantasy Football Challenge, brought to you by FantasyJocks.com, which is America's fantasy sports superstore for all of your fantasy sport needs. They've got it. And for us, they are providing a fantastic, this thing's like $250. It's a championship belt like Hulk Hogan would wear, baby. And it is going to go to the winner. And that winner is not just going to be perhaps Nick or you or me. It's going to be one of the listeners, perhaps, because one of the coolest things that I love to do with this Fantasy Football Challenge is the 3 of us will get in, and then we're going to open up the other 12, 13 spot, however many, I'm not sure how many will go, 14, 16 teams, something like that. We're going to open up the remaining spots to you, the listeners of the Dash. Now, obviously, many more of you will want to play than spots that we're going to have in the league. So what we're going to do, we've got, about 4 weeks until football starts, which means about 3.5 weeks, get this thing signed up. So for the next 3.5 weeks, and we'll remind you about this every day, but you can go to any of our social media, which as of now, we've got a Twitter account set up, at the Dash WT on Twitter. Hit us up, follow us, and then send us a message on our social media. Let us know, hey, I want to play fantasy football with you guys. We'll get your name in the hat. Obviously, we're going to have many more than we have slots, so we'll draw the name out of the hat, and a dozen lucky listeners will get to play fantasy football with us. Every week, we'll do a little segment. You'll get to hear your name on the radio, and somebody is going home with a championship belt from our friends at FantasyJocks.com, and second place is going to win a fantastic championship trophy or ring as well. So we've got prizes for first place and second, and we're going to talk about all season long, and I think that's something really cool. The ink wasn't dry yesterday, But we got it set today, and I think really like the first cool thing we're going to have. Now, of course, they could follow us on Facebook as well. Our Facebook page. Wait. Oh, Mr. Hershey, our Facebook page is what?
It's coming, J-Rocc.
It's coming. It's coming out.
It'll be up tomorrow.
It'll be up tomorrow.com.
No,
we don't have a Facebook page.
We don't
yet.
have a Facebook page.
You
yet.
had one job.
And I do it.
One job.
I didn't do it.
No Instagram?
No Instagram.
No
either.
Instagram. We're Twitter only.
Right now, yes.
We are social media handicapped right now. Thank you. Thank you. Get us a placard for our show.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, guys. No, seriously, I'm joking with Nick, but we're going to get the Facebook, we're going to get the Instagram up, and the Twitter. Follow us. Send us a message. Say, hey, guys, we will be a part of the Football Challenge. We'll get all your names in the hopper. We're going to get a dozen of you with us, and somebody's going to win an awesome promo. Friends at FantasyJocks.com, America's Fantasy Sports. Now, guys, that was the fun part, the good part. I wanted to get that out of the way. Yesterday, we were talking. We took some calls. We listened to some people. Talked about what to do, and we agree. Local, high school, a lot of the things that we cover right here on WINT is what we're going to talk about here. We were out there, and Nick, you found a pretty fantastic article to talk about here today.
Yeah, and, episode 1 yesterday, we were excited about the future and what the football season holds. For episode 2, we're going to take a nostalgia trip of sorts. So the News Herald came out with the 25 best individual seasons from area football players over the last 25 years. And Mark Podolsky is the author of this article. And we're going to break down the list 25-1.
I mean, think about it. Look at that. Just before we even get into, who's number this, number that. I mean, look, we talked a little bit about it, some of the names. And as you go through it, obviously, they'll pop back in the memory. But just some of the great players that have played here that went on to play on Saturdays after Fridays. And, of course, some of them even on Sundays.
Yeah, absolutely. And this list is not limited to high school football. I mean, they were area football stars here, of course. But it could be anywhere from high school gridiron to college gridiron to the NFL gridiron. So, as far as the level of football that's being played and the different positions as well.
I thought it was a cool place to start as we march our countdown to kick off August 25th for the WINT Integrity Radio High School Football Game of the Week. And that's, of course, one of the big things we do here. But absolutely. And looking through this here, obviously, if you want to feel free, this is your list, man. It's you, baby. You take
first.
This.
All right. Well, we're going to kick this thing off. Number 25, he's a former Mentor linebacker. He went to John Carroll. That's Mason McHenrick. And his season, not too far off, so not too far of a trip for the first stop on this nostalgia trip. That's 2016. And McHenrick managed to lead the Blue Streaks to the Division III National Semifinal, 10-3 loss. So that just kind of gives you an idea of the kind of impact that McHenrick and this defense had on opposing offenses to only lose by a touchdown and only hold the opposing team to 10 points.
No, absolutely. His 2016 was a great season. He was a first-team All-American. He was a Defensive Player of the Year in D3 football. So a lot of cool things there for him. Absolutely a big game against Baldwin Wallace. And, I remember him playing for Mentor, and it was a big season there for the Blue Streaks. So what's interesting, too, about this list, it's not just high school football season. It's seasons by area high school football players, but it could have been what they did in their prolific college seasons or whatever they've done beyond that as well. As you continue to look, Madison, quarterback, Josh Haldy, 99. I mean, nearly 2,400 passing yards. I mean, at that time, too, you got to realize we're talking 20 years ago before the numbers blew up and you get the Cardinals out here running 17 wide receivers across the field and all of that. I mean, 30 downs, that's nothing to sneeze at.
And his coach, Art Bortnick, was a run-first coach. And even after they had him, he actually went on to go to Northern Illinois, where he slung the ball 303 times during the 1999 season.
That's a lot of wear on an arm. That's a lot of throws for any arm in any season. Number 23 on the list, Lake Catholics, Mike Gibbons, a name many people familiar with as he played for Mount Union, 150 tackle season. That again, nothing to shake a stick at, man.
And that was for second in school history behind former Brush coach Jason Hall. He racked up 178.
PJ Insana, John Carroll, had a good season. Number 22 on the list. Ricky Stanzi, number 21. Wanted to bring him up as we're closing in on the first break. And we've got his season for the Hawkeyes back in 2010. 64% completion percentage. That's definitely in that successful area. 1,000 passing yards, 25 touchdowns. His passer rating, 157.6 that season. That's like right at the top of all the quarterbacks across the nation that year in 2010.
Yeah, he was the model of consistency, no doubt.
And it obviously transferred over to Sundays. He was drafted, 5th round, 6th round in 2011 by the Chiefs. Spent a couple years in the NFL. He played for Jacksonville, Houston, Giants, the Lions, CFL, where they got the short field and the wide sidelines. It's a little bit different. A lot of big games, some great college games as well. That's perhaps one of the more notable ones to a lot of listeners here just because he's in such recent history. As you go down, Madison, wide receiver, defensive back, Jim Smith in 99 had a big season. 99, having 1,500 receiving yards is not bad in 11 games. Willie Beers in 92, number 19 on the list. Connor Krasanik, Menor quarterback, 2013. What a season he had. 3,300 passing yards, 32 touchdowns, and not just 3,300 passing yards, but nearly 50 rushing yards as well. Had the big 12-game winning streak, 40 points a game, as that was kind of the evolution of that Menor Cardinals offense we've come to know and love.
He's also a very converted receiver as well, so he was all over the field on offense.
We got to hit the break. Let's hit the break. Let's get the rest of this list in. We've still got half of this to go. So many big names. Guys, don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Here it's The Dash. Nick Hershey, J-Rocc, Thomas Pope, back with you in a flash on The Dash here on WINT Integrity Radio.
Game over, man. Game over. Nothing is over. Nothing.
The Dash is back in a flash on Integrity Radio, the new 101.5 FM, 1330 AM, WINTradio.com.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quits off being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious.
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Sports Superstore, FantasyJocks.com.
Hiring a landscaper sounds like a good idea. You won't have to do all that work. But will they show up and clean up afterwards? Can you trust them around your property? If it's Ward's Lawn Care and Landscape, those answers are all yes. George Ward is one of our community's good guys, and his workers reflect his values with quality and dependability. With Ward's, you can stop working and stop worrying. Visit wardslawncare.com or call 40942-TEAM12. No work, no worries, Ward's.
Did you know water makes up 50% of your body? It regulates body temperature and helps boost the immune system. Water is also needed for lubrication of joints and boosts metabolism during and before exercise. Sunrise Springs Water Company bottles their water in the heart of Geauga County. 100% clean, 100% pure, and 100% fresh. Ask about free delivery for home or office, 3 or 5 gallon bottles, and water coolers with your favorite college team logo. Visit sunrisespringswater.com.
Back to The Dash. WINT Integrity Radio, the new 101.5 FM, 1330 AM, and WINTradio.com.
You can do it all night long!
Welcome back to The Dash. J-Rocc, Nick Hershey, Mr. Pope behind the glass with you live on 101.5 FM, 1330 ANT Radio. Thanks, guys, for being with us. This show is literally a sprint to the finish line. Thank you, guys, for being with us as we pop back in. Hit us up on social media. What do you think of today's show? What do you think as we talk about the News Herald's list of the top 25 performances by local football here, whether it was high school or the pros? Tweet with us at the Dash WIN on Twitter, at the Dash WINT. Phone lines not open right now, and we're going to try to fire that tomorrow. But obviously, blowing through this thing makes it so hard. And speaking of blowing through it, making through this list is hard. We have 30 minutes, and these are some great ball players, guys, as we jump right back into it there. And I know you were looking particularly as we get back to it at number 16 on this list.
Yeah, you got that right, J-Rocc, and it's none other than a guy who has been playing on base for quite a while, but retired in 2013, London Fletcher.
Oh, one of my favorites. This is just one of the classiest guys out there, man. Week in and week out, played football, man.
know him as Bam.
Yeah, right?
No doubt about it. He was named second All-Pro for the second straight season. By the way, the 2012 season we're referencing here. And it's just amazing. 137 tackles, 5 broke up 11 passes, and had 3 sacks in his season in the NFL.
I mean, think about that. That's like at the back end when most guys are considering their options after football and winding it down and hoping just to not get cut in camp. I mean, this guy was as good as he was at the end as at the beginning. And that's something that any athlete strives to leave at the top of their game, and he most definitely did. Plus, he's one of 5 John Carroll players to ever have the number retired. And look at, when you look at the other names on the list, Don Shula, I mean, you're talking some Hall of Fame pedigree right there.
No doubt about it. He definitely deserved his place in that list. Number 15, quarterback Ray Russ, 2010. He had 3,000 yards, 43 touchdowns, and he only played 4 quarters in 2 of the team's 10 regular season games.
Think about that. That's getting pulled early because blowing teams out so bad. But the touchdown to end ratio that season, 43 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's phenomenal.
No doubt about it.
I mean, he had Kareem Hunt. I mean, that was a heck of an offense there. I remember calling a couple of those games, and he had 7 touchdowns in the first half of a game against Riverside. That's one of them ones. That's the reason that they invented the running clock, was seasons like that right there, because some of those poor teams were getting manhandled by guys like that. That was an amazing season there. How about 14, Pepe Pearson from Euclid, but the season that he had for Ohio in 96, back when I remember being a youngster watching the Buckeyes coming up, but he had a huge season. He had 1,700 total yards, 17 touchdowns, had 6 games with multiple touchdowns in a game. I mean, he was top 10 in the nation in yards and touchdowns, rushing 10 in SU history. And I mean, think of some of the guys we're talking about there.
Yeah, Chris Beanie Wells, Eddie George, Archie Griffin. But moving on here to one that I kind of caught my eye.
How was Archie Griffin not the first name that you listed? And
Because
Ezekiel Elliott not the second. I'm just saying.
One I'm wondering that I haven't even heard a hint about. Robert Smith.
Oh, well, I mean, absolutely, of course. I mean, that goes without saying.
All right, but we got to move on here. Number 13
Says who? It's our show. Look, I'm a pro wrestler. You think they're kicking me out of this studio? We're only leaving at 7 o'clock by choice. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyways, go ahead. Yeah. Number 13, you got Kevin Harper from Mentor in 2007, Carrick Spear from Mayfield in 2009. I know you had an interesting note on Harper.
Yeah, and the thing that they have in common with these two is they both hold the record for the longest field goal attempt at 61 yards. And the interesting thing about Harper's field goal is that the made field goal was caught by an 8th grade Mitch Trubisky.
Right, you know what I mean? And not only that, 61 yards. We're talking high school, y'all. We are talking high school football. With all due respect, these kids, I do the play-by-play for a few seasons now, and one thing I have learned is that in high school football, special teams is not to be taken for granted. Many of these schools have to go for 2-point conversions all the time because they don't have a kicker capable of making extra points. And that's not disrespectful. That's a hard skill to have. In high school, nailing 61-yard field goals, man. I mean, there's pros that don't do that. That's a full of yards off the Tom Dempsey record. Well, I think the other guy tied his record or passed.
Not Janikowski.
Doggone it. No. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm aging myself by talking about the guy with half a foot, but he had the record for the field goal. But that's long for high school field goal. See, you ask me what time it is, I tell you how to make a watch, man. I can't just tell you what time it is. Perry running back Michael Hanhauser in 2008 had been 40 touchdowns. I don't care if you're playing Pee Wee League or the Senior League. 40 touchdowns is 40 touchdowns. How about talking about Euclid running backs? Tony Fisher in 97.
Yeah, and when you have a News Herald award named after you, you kind of did something good.
The award is named the Tony Fisher Award. Enough said that. Now you hit the top 10. Heidelberg, Euclid wide receiver Mike Preston in 2010 for Heidelberg had a big season. He blew away the league so bad that the next closest receiver to him on his team had 15. He was the be-all, end-all of the offense for them that season.
Interesting note on Preston, though. When he came Euclid over to Heidelberg, he was 6 foot. By the end of his time there, 6'6". 6'6" inches. That is a lot of receiver to cover on the field.
Talk about beating somebody out. That man took a wrong turn at the wrong studio. Like, what's that last house on the left? You make a wrong turn into this studio, you don't come back. How about Elvis Gerback from the VASJ for the Chiefs in 2000? Again, that's kind of my era of watching cats. Elvis Gerback could ball, man. 41 yards for the Chiefs in 2000. I mean, that kid was quarterback rating. That's right up there, man. That was, again, you talked about London Fletcher, second to last NFL season for Mr. Gerback as well.
Moving on to number 8, It's a pair of running backs, both from the same school, Kirtland running backs, Sam Kikura and Adam Hess in 2013. They combined for 3,242 yards and 50 touchdowns. These guys were the thunder and light combination I've ever seen.
Yeah, for sure. And I got to see Hessink play his games in my first season, and he definitely could ball as well. And I love a good running game. I'm one of those guys that the teams that grind it out and stuff, as well as the Menor stuff and all of that as well. I always mention them because I call all their games 2 linemen and a bunch of wide receivers. I swear, that's all they've got. Bart Tansky, speaking of Menor, 2007, had a big season, 3,100 yards, a ridiculous percentage, 9 rushing TDs, led him to the state title game. Big season for him. How about number 6, running back, Endoberto and Anthony Bilal for Lake Erie College from Riverside and North, respectively. Those guys had big seasons. You break into the top 5, though, you get names that everybody recognizes as we come into the home stretch of the dash here. How about Dan Whalen at number 5 from South? He played for Case, had a big season for the Gladiators as well, and I think may have even done some training camps in the NFL, but...
Yeah, and the big thing about Whalen is he had a lot of receivers that were around from the area, so there's nothing like having chemistry with the guys that you're throwing to.
Yeah, everybody was from Lake County, a couple of Menor guys and up there. He was the top player in D3 that season, All-American, had a big season, 6 touchdowns against Oberlin, and again, like I said, had a career beyond that as well. How about Desmond Howard? Missed Trophy himself, as everybody remembers, but when he played for the Packers, I mean, he had a huge season in '96, which culminated in a Super Bowl and all of that, the MVP and the famous everything. I mean, it all kind of, that season was his big season, but everybody remembers Desmond Howard, obviously.
And he joined some elite company by winning the Super Bowl MVP. He joined Roger Staubach, Jim Plunkett, and Marcus Allen as the only players to win the Heisman and the Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, because, I mean, biggest barometer to lack of NFL success is who won the Heisman Trophy most seasons, but that he had the 99-yard. I remember watching when he changed the course of that game with that 99-yard kick return. He had 250 practically returning yards in that one when he won the MVP.
It was a 99-yard dagger. Essentially,
it was definitely something to remember. And as you said, Roger Staubach, Jim Plunkett, Marcus Allen, and Desmond Howard. Number 3, Robert Smith. You mentioned him earlier. I'm like, oh, man, how are you going to just ruin the whole building up to the thing, man? You're just going to pop the top off of it early. And Robert Smith, in 2000, the Vikings, heck of a season, former Euclid running back, in his final NFL season. As everybody remembers, he was different from everybody else. He, in college, he didn't care about not that he didn't care about football, but he was about his education. He was about all of the other things, and he was frustrated because he didn't want to play. He had his focuses were on different priorities. NFL, he wrapped it up early, and look at that final season again. Talk about guys going out on top.
The only reason I mentioned it because he broke my
1,500 rushing yards, 1,900 from scrimmage, 8 games of at least 100 yards in his final season.
Yeah, and that includes 170 yards versus the Bears and about 150 with the Cowboys. But number 2, South back Kareem Hunt.
Oh, what a season.
And he had...
what was it? 2012.
2012. So his junior year, about 2,300 rushing yards, 37 touchdowns, 460 all-purpose yards, NDCL here.
That game right there, they got the breakdown right here in front. Think about that: 125 yards rushing, 150 receiving, nearly 200 kick return. That is the definition of all over the place.
And you know what? He would have won the Mr. Football Award that year, but there was another man that was deserving. That's our number 1 spot.
Now think about that season we just labeled, and that was not Mr. Football, the be-all, end-all, as great of a season as that was with all of those touchdowns and everything, because we mentioned him yesterday. How about me, Mr. Chicago Bear, now top pick in the NFL draft in 2012, that Cardinals season that he had 4,000 yards, 42 touchdowns, plus 850 rushing yards, 18 rushing. Add that to 60 touchdowns that season. Look at the game in the regional semis against Eds. 4 touchdowns, 100 yards rushing, 2 more. That huge come-from-behind victory, that crazy overtime. I was on another radio station waiting for the play-by-play guy from that game to join me on the air, and we sat and listened to that triple back-and-forth game. It's one of the most amazing high school football games I've ever listened to in my life.
And no doubt, Mitch Trubisky definitely deserving a spot here.
You hear that?
This
is criminal.
They're cutting us off.
They can't make us leave. I mean, if we want down, I got your back. Are we going to get out of here today?
Only if we want to.
Are you playing nice?
Only if we want to.
Looking at me. We means I, everybody. He's looking at me like, whatever you want to do, boss. All right, we'll come back in here tomorrow. You guys come back with us. As we said, don't forget, so many different social media platforms being opened up as we go throughout the week. The one we do is Twitter. So follow us, tweet with us. Did you like today's show? Hit us up at @the-WINT. Simple. At @the-WINT on Twitter, or better yet, just come dash back here tomorrow, 6:30 across the Integrity Radio Network. Great second show, my man Nick Hershey, Mr. Pope, J-Rocc Daddy, back with you tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. More programming up next as we're out of here. It's The Dash on WINT Integrity Radio.